Have you ever felt like no one noticed just how hard you were trying?
Oh man. Yeah.
Right. Or maybe that your quietest, most difficult struggles are just entirely invisible to the rest of the world.
It's a really heavy feeling.
It is. It's this profound sensation that you are putting in a monumental amount of effort just to maintain a baseline. Like you're paddling furiously just to keep your head above water.
And everyone around you is just walking by on the shore.
Exactly. Completely oblivious to the sheer amount of energy it takes for you simply to exist in that particular moment.
It is a profoundly isolating feeling. I mean, truly. But to understand why it hurts so much, we actually have to look at the evolutionary biology of human attention.
Wait, really? Like it goes back that far?
Oh, absolutely. For
Okay.
tens of thousands of years, being seen by your tribe meant survival.
Mm.
If your efforts, hunting, foraging, protecting the group, if those were visible, you were valued.
And if you were valued, you weren't left behind to starve.
Precisely. So our brains are literally hardwired to crave having our efforts witnessed. The pain of invisible effort isn't just some emotional quirk.
Right. It's not just us being needy.
No, not at all. It is a primal alarm bell
Yeah.
going off in your nervous system.
Mm.
It's telling you that your survival is at risk because your contributions just aren't being registered by the group.
That makes so much sense, but it also highlights a massive short circuit in our modern world, I think.
How do you mean?
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a really poignant piece of source material titled, "Not Every Effort Needs to Be Seen."
It's a fantastic text. Very short, but philosophically very dense.
Yeah, it really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct this exact friction. The friction between our biological craving to be witnessed, like you just mentioned, and the philosophical truth that the most profound personal transformations, the real paradigm-shifting changes in a human life, they almost always happen entirely in the dark.
Yeah. We're going to explore the hidden architecture behind personal growth, healing, and ultimately real success.
Right, because the mechanics of how a human being actually grows are just fundamentally at odds with how our current culture demands we display our growth.
Completely at odds.
So if you're listening to this right now and you are in the grueling early stages of building a business from scratch, or maybe you are quietly healing from a devastating heartbreak.
Or honestly, just trying to find the willpower to get out of bed in the morning when the world feels heavy.
Yes, exactly. If that's you, consider this deep dive a validation of your unseen grind.
The source text immediately challenges our modern assumptions, actually.
Yeah.
It opens with this line: not every effort needs to be seen. Some battles are fought quietly.
I love that line.
It goes on. Some progress happens in silence. And some of the strongest people are the ones no one notices,
Wow.
right? This directly confronts what we can call the modern attention economy.
The attention economy, let's really pull that apart for a second.
Sure.
Because it feels like we've reached a point where if an achievement or even a struggle isn't posted, praised, quantified, or somehow publicly consumed, we genuinely believe it didn't happen.
Yes. We have essentially outsourced our sense of reality to the audience.
We really have. It's wild when you think about it.
And the mechanism driving that is dopamine. In this modern attention economy, social media algorithms and even corporate performance metrics have gamified our evolutionary need to be seen.
Oh, right, because you post an accomplishment, you get a like, and boom, dopamine hit.
Exactly. It is extrinsic motivation. But over time, the brain builds a tolerance to it.
So you need more.
You need a lot more. You need more visibility, more applause, just to feel the same baseline level of satisfaction. Eventually, you stop doing things for the intrinsic value of the action itself.
And you just start doing them exclusively for the public reaction.
Right. For the dopamine hit of being witnessed.
It's the old pics or it didn't happen rule, but applied to our actual souls.
That is a terrifying but accurate way to put it.
I was turning this over in my head the other day, and it made me think of a theater production.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So when you go to a play, you sit in the dark, the curtain goes up, and you are completely captivated by the actors in the spotlight.
Naturally. They're the ones we came to see.
Right. And when the show is over, you stand up, you clap, you throw roses, all the praise goes to the people in the light,
Right.
but we completely forget about the stagehands.
The unseen architecture of the entire performance.
Exactly. The stagehands are literally in the pitch black. They are sweating, they are pulling heavy ropes, they are moving massive set pieces.
Coordinating everything perfectly.
Yes. Coordinating perfectly to make sure the entire world of the play doesn't just come crashing down. They are making the show possible, but if they do their job perfectly, You never, ever see them.
Which begs a really important question.
Why do we consistently conflate being seen with being strong?
It's because visibility is cognitively easy to process.
How so?
Well, it requires zero imagination from the observer. Seeing the actor in the spotlight is a completely passive experience for the audience.
Right, you just sit there and look.
But to appreciate the stagehand, you have to possess the intellectual and empathetic capacity to understand the hidden mechanics of the production.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you have to understand tension and timing and structural support.
Exactly. Society at large often lacks the bandwidth to process complex hidden mechanics. We default to the easy metric, and visibility is the easiest metric of all.
That makes total sense. But I do want to push back on that a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Isn't visibility also a form of accountability? Like, if you do everything in the dark, aren't we risking stagnation?
It's a valid concern.
Right, because if I tell people I'm going to run a marathon
Hmm.
and they see me training, that visibility sort of holds my feet to the fire.
That is the common argument for visibility, yeah.
Yeah.
But neuroscience actually suggests the opposite is often true, especially in the early stages of a goal.
Really? The opposite?
Yes. There is a well-documented psychological phenomenon involving premature identity completion.
Premature identity completion. Okay, unpack that for me.
When you announce a goal prematurely, when you shine a spotlight on the effort before the foundation is even built, your brain registers the social applause as if you have already achieved the goal.
Wait, you're kidding?
Nope. You get the dopamine reward for the finish line before you've even run the first mile.
Oh, wow. So the visibility actually drains the motivation to do the work.
Precisely. The social reality replaces the physical reality. Your brain thinks, well, we already got the reward, why do the hard work?
That is so counterintuitive, but it explains so much.
It brings us back to the Stoics, or even historical figures like Charles Darwin. I mean, Darwin sat on his theory of evolution for 20 years before publishing On the Origin of Species.
20 years, just working on it in secret.
20 years of invisible effort. He knew the societal backlash would be immense. If he had sought visibility early on, the friction would have destroyed his work.
So true strength, the kind that survives immense pressure, has to be forged in a silent internal state long before it's exposed to the public.
Exactly. The foundation has to be solid first.
Okay, so if the true strength is the stagehand working in the dark, or Darwin writing in secret for decades, we really need to look closely at what exactly that hidden work looks like on a daily basis.
Right. What are the mechanics of it?
Yeah, and the source text gives us a fascinating anatomy of this private grind. It says, you may be waking up early while the world is still asleep. You may be working hard without anyone clapping for you.
And it continues. You may be healing, learning, struggling, and growing behind closed doors.
I want to pause there because notice how that list naturally fractures into two distinct categories of human effort.
Yes, the physical and the internal.
Right. First, you have this action-oriented effort. Waking up early, working hard, studying, maybe learning a new skill. These are tangible physical actions taking place in the material world.
You're manipulating time, space, or information.
Exactly. Even if no one is currently watching you do them, they are measurable actions.
But the second category is entirely different. It's emotional or internal effort.
Yeah.
Healing, struggling, growing behind closed doors.
And society treats those two categories very differently, doesn't it?
Completely. Society might retroactively recognize the action-oriented effort. Like, when an athlete wins a gold medal, the public might say, oh, look at all those early mornings.
Right, they can quantify it.
Society entirely ignores the massive physiological and cognitive toll required to heal from trauma, or to simply struggle through a period of profound self-doubt.
Okay, let me stop you there, because I think this is where the friction really lives for most people listening.
Yeah, let's get into it.
It's relatively easy to track the progress of, waking up early. You look at the clock, you have a tangible output. I am awake, I am at my desk, I wrote 3 pages, I ran 5 miles.
It's indisputable.
But how on earth do we measure healing behind closed doors when there is literally no tangible output? You can't hand someone a spreadsheet that proves you are 10% less heartbroken today than you were last Tuesday.
No, you can't hand them a spreadsheet. But we can look at the biology of what is happening, which completely validates how exhausting that healing really is.
I would love some biological validation right now.
So, the human brain consumes about 20% of the body's total energy, despite being only 2% of its weight.
20%, just for the brain.
Yes. So when you are engaged in emotional healing, Let's say you are actively trying not to text a toxic ex, or you are trying to rewrite a deeply ingrained self-sabotaging thought pattern.
Which feels impossible some days.
It feels impossible because you are forcing your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical executive part of your brain, to constantly override your amygdala, which is the emotional, fear-driven center.
You are literally fighting a biological war inside your own skull.
It is intensely metabolically expensive. Suppressing a deeply ingrained emotional response burns an incredible amount of cognitive calories.
So you feel physically exhausted at the end of the day.
Completely depleted because you have been doing heavy neurological lifting. But to the outside observer, you just look like you were sitting on your couch staring at the wall.
Oh, that disconnect is just devastating because you don't get the visual feedback loop.
What do you mean by the feedback loop?
Well, think about when you are building a physical object, like framing a house. You step back at the end of the day and you literally see the walls going up.
Right. Tangible progress.
That visible progress gives you a hit of dopamine. It feeds you energy for the next day. It says, look, I did something.
But internal growth lacks that visual feedback entirely.
It really does.
You might spend an entire month doing intense emotional work, setting boundaries, confronting past traumas, facing down your own insecurities. And at the end of the month from the outside, you look exactly the same.
In fact, you might even look worse.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, you might be crying more or feeling more anxious, precisely because you are finally doing the hard work of processing things rather than repressing them.
But an outside observer just assumes you are failing or regressing.
Exactly. And that lack of external measurement, combined with the misinterpretation by others, it makes the process inherently lonely.
It requires you to be the architect, the builder, and the sole building inspector of your own psyche.
That is a great way to put it. No one is coming by with a clipboard to sign off on your permit and say, excellent work processing that grief today, my friend.
Which means you are operating in a total vacuum.
And that isolation, that absolute lack of any external signpost saying you are going the right way, leads directly into the psychological toll the text highlights next.
Let's read that part. It says, and maybe no one sees how tired you are. No one sees the nights you almost gave up. No one sees how many times you had to encourage yourself just to keep going.
The nights you almost gave up, that is just, it's the most vital line in this section, I think.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because it delves into the raw mechanics of self-motivation in a closed system.
Okay, so I was actually thinking about closed systems recently, specifically in terms of thermodynamics. Bear with me here.
Oh, I'm listening. Bring on the physics.
Okay, so in physics, the second law of thermodynamics essentially states that in an isolated system, entropy, which is chaos, disorder, a lack of energy, will always naturally increase unless you apply external energy to it.
Makes sense. A messy room doesn't clean itself.
Exactly. It gets messier until you apply the energy of cleaning. Now, usually as humans, we avoid psychological entropy by acting like devices plugged into the wall. We plug into external sources for our energy.
A friend gives us a compliment. A mentor gives us advice. We get public praise.
Right. That is all external electricity powering us up and fighting off the chaos.
We are tethered to the grid of social feedback.
Right. But when you are doing this unseen work, this silent struggling and growing, you have effectively unplugged from the grid. You are a closed loop system.
And entropy is naturally pulling you toward despair.
Toward giving up, toward chaos. And because there is no external energy coming in, you have to generate your own spark from absolute zero. You have to encourage yourself.
And thermodynamic laws dictate how incredibly hard and inefficient it is to generate energy in a closed loop.
Yes. It is exhausting because you are simultaneously the generator and the machine drawing the power.
What's fascinating here is that the text doesn't say, no one sees the nights you were strong and fearless.
Oh, that's true. It doesn't.
It specifically highlights the vulnerability. The true victory of the unseen grind isn't about never wanting to quit. That's a myth sold by productivity gurus.
Yeah, the whole hustle culture mentality.
Right. The real victory is experiencing that profound bone-deep desire to just stop, to lay down the burden, to let the entropy win, and then making the conscious, metabolically expensive choice to generate one more spark and push through anyway.
Think about the times in your life listening to this right now when you had to be your own cheerleader in an entirely empty room.
It's a very specific kind of lonely.
Think about a night where you were staring at the ceiling, completely overwhelmed by doubt, feeling the entropy pulling you down, and the only voice whispering, try again tomorrow, was your own.
That specific type of fatigue, the fatigue of generating your own hope, is heavier than any physical labor.
It really is, and honestly, it is validating to hear that normalized. If you are exhausted from encouraging yourself, it doesn't mean you are broken or doing it wrong.
Not at all. It means you are doing the heavy lifting of genuine personal transformation.
But this brings up a really critical dilemma. If your internal battery is constantly draining and no one is watching to tell you that you are on the right path, where do you look for proof?
How do you know you aren't just driving yourself crazy in the dark, basically?
Exactly. The source text provides an answer, though, and it does it by shifting our perspective entirely away from human society and looking toward biomimicry.
Looking to the natural world for design and truth. I love this part.
It says, "The seed does not need applause while it is growing underground. The sunrise does not ask for permission before it appears."
Nature does not operate on a validation economy.
Nature is utterly indifferent to applause. Let's examine the seed first, because that metaphor is so rich.
Well, a seed growing underground is doing the foundational work. It is messy, it is dark, it is surrounded by dirt, and it is facing immense physical resistance from the heavy soil.
And it is entirely unobserved, which always makes me wonder, why does a seed have to start underground?
What do you mean?
Like, what would happen if we tried to force all our personal growth to happen right on the surface where everyone could see it from day one?
Well, if a seed attempts to germinate on the surface, exposed to the open air, a few disastrous things happen.
Like what?
First, it is vulnerable to predators. Birds will just eat it. In human terms, your fragile new goals are consumed by the cynicism or the jealousy of others.
Wow, yes.
Second, it lacks the pressure required to develop a root system. The seed needs the resistance of the heavy dirt to push against. It has to send roots downward, securing a foundation and tapping into deep water sources before it ever expends energy pushing a stalk upward toward the light.
The roots literally have to hold the weight of the future tree. If you don't build the roots in the dark, the first strong wind above ground will just blow the whole thing over.
Exactly. Consider the Chinese bamboo tree. This is a perfect botanical parallel to unseen effort.
Oh, I've heard of this. It's fascinating.
Right, so when you plant a Chinese bamboo seed, you have to water it and fertilize the soil every single day. For the first year, nothing happens. Nothing breaks the surface.
Nothing at all.
The second year, you water it daily. Nothing. The third year, the fourth year, nothing visible happens. The effort seems entirely wasted to an outside observer.
You just look like you're watering a patch of dirt.
Exactly. But in the fifth year, the bamboo sprouts, and it grows up to 90 feet in just 6 weeks.
Wait, 90 feet in 6 weeks? That's insane.
Yes, but the obvious question is, did it grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years?
It took 5 years, because if the farmer had stopped watering it during that invisible period, the plant would have died in the ground.
It's exactly right. For 4 years, the bamboo was building a massive, complex, interlocking root system underground, capable of supporting a 90-foot structure that would practically appear overnight.
So if you had dug up that seed in year 3 to, show people its progress.
To prove to your neighbors that you weren't crazy for watering dirt.
Yeah, exactly. If you dug it up, you would kill the plant. You destroy the very growth you were trying to validate by exposing it prematurely.
And we do this to ourselves all the time.
We really do. We get an inkling of a new direction, a desire to change careers or to write a book or maybe to get sober. And instead of doing the dark, quiet root work, we immediately post about it.
We seek the applause for the idea,
Yeah.
which, as we mentioned earlier with the neuroscience, tricks the brain into feeling like the work is already done.
The dopamine of the announcement sabotages the deep root system.
The seed metaphor and the bamboo tell us that the darkness and the silence aren't punishments. They are protective incubators.
Diamonds are another classic example of
A
this.
perfect example.
They are formed under immense pressure and extreme heat, deep within the Earth's mantle, completely hidden from view. And the process takes billions of years.
The pressure is the point. The darkness is the point.
Right. The growth must happen where no one can see it, or it will never possess the structural integrity to survive the light.
And then there's the second metaphor in the text, the sunrise. The sunrise does not ask for permission before it appears.
The seed represents the struggle of the process, but the sunrise represents the inevitability of the result.
The sunrise is governed by celestial mechanics. It does not hold a focus group to determine if today is a good day to be brilliant.
Right. It doesn't check its social media metrics to see if the people below are awake to witness it.
Or if they are sleeping with their curtains drawn. It simply exists, fully and powerfully, because that is its nature.
It's completely unapologetic. I love that so much. When your effort is rooted in your own internal truth, you stop asking for permission to shine. You stop waiting for a consensus from your peers to validate your trajectory.
Understanding nature's indifference to applause really forces us to redefine what makes our own human efforts real.
Because we have a terrible habit of conflating the reality of our work with the visibility of our work.
But the text explicitly severs that connection. It states, "But that does not mean your effort is meaningless, and you do not need everyone to witness your journey for it to be real. Keep going, keep improving, keep choosing discipline, even when no one is watching."
This feels like a major pivot in the text. We are moving from empathy, acknowledging the fatigue and the pain of the dark, to a very strict mandate.
It is a mandate. It's tackling a massive philosophical riddle.
It's the classic tree falling in the forest, isn't it? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Exactly. If I put in 10,000 hours of grueling, invisible work and absolutely nobody ever knows about it, did it actually matter?
The author is arguing unequivocally that yes, it matters.
But we have to examine why it matters. The text frames choosing discipline not as a restriction, but as the ultimate act of self-respect.
Self-respect.
Yes, doing the hard thing when no one is watching is the only true litmus test for whether your goal actually belongs to you or if you were just renting it for the audience.
Okay, let's debate that for a second.
Right.
Is changing myself enough? Because we live in a society that preaches impact. We're constantly told we need to change the world, leave a legacy, disrupt an industry, help millions of people.
It's exhausting just hearing that list.
It is. So if my discipline only ever changes me and remains entirely unseen, haven't I failed that societal mandate?
That assumes the societal mandate is correct in the first place.
Yeah.
But let's look at the actual mechanics of impact.
Okay.
You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot build a sturdy house on a fractured foundation.
Right.
We are conditioned to measure impact externally.
Yeah.
How many followers did I gain? How much money did I raise? What structural change did I enact?
Right, the visible metrics.
But quiet, unseen discipline is about internal structural integrity. It builds an unshakable core identity.
Unshakable specifically because no one else had a hand in building it.
Precisely. It is the exact opposite of the fragile identity built on applause.
Oh, man, that's deep.
If you construct your self-worth and your identity based on public approval, then you have given the public the unilateral power to destroy it.
Yeah.
If they stop clapping, your identity collapses.
You are literally a hostage to the audience.
Yes. But if you build your discipline in the dark, if you know as an empirical fact that you kept your promises to yourself when absolutely no one was watching, you forge an ironclad relationship with yourself.
You know who you are in the dark.
And that knowledge cannot be taken away by public criticism, by failure, or by being ignored. It is yours. You earned it in silence.
So it's immunity.
Yes. You ask if changing yourself is enough. Changing yourself is the absolute non-negotiable prerequisite for ever authentically changing the world. If you try to change the world while still relying on the world's applause for your structural integrity, you will compromise your values the second the applause stops.
That is a staggering realization. The discipline in the dark isn't just about achieving a goal. It is about immunizing yourself against the volatility of public opinion.
Think of an iceberg, another perfect natural metaphor.
And I love the iceberg analogy.
The majestic, terrifying beauty of an iceberg that we see above the water is only 10% of its total mass.
10%.
90% of the iceberg's strength, its weight, its ability to alter ocean currents and sink unsinkable ships, lies completely hidden beneath the surface.
The visible success is entirely dependent on the invisible mass.
Entirely.
So what does this all mean for the moment when the unseen finally does become seen? Because eventually that bamboo does break the surface.
Right, the sun does rise.
The discipline eventually yields a result that interacts with the public. And the text addresses this exact transition, this moment where the private grind violently collides with public perception.
The closing section handles this transition with a very clear warning about cognitive dissonance.
What does it say?
It says, because one day, the results will speak for the quiet days. And when that day comes, people may only see your success, but you will remember the silent effort that built it. Sometimes the most powerful growth happens where no one can see.
There's almost a tragic irony in this.
How so?
You spend years desperately wanting people to see your effort, and when they finally look, they only see the result. They miss the effort entirely.
It is an inevitable cognitive dissonance. When your quiet discipline finally produces a visible result, the public will predictably misinterpret it.
Right. They will view your achievement as an overnight miracle.
They will call it a stroke of luck, or they will chalk it up to effortless, innate talent.
Oh, that is infuriating. When you finally achieve something and someone casually says, wow, you're so lucky.
And inside, you're screaming.
Yes. In your head, you are flashing back to the 5 years of sleep deprivation, the silent panic attacks, the ruined relationships, the closed-loop thermodynamic exhaustion, and they just dismiss it as a lottery ticket.
It is incredibly frustrating, but only if you are still seeking their validation. The text suggests a profound reframing here. The true reward of success is not the public applause, because the public is applauding an illusion.
They are applauding the magic trick without knowing the decades of sleight-of-hand practice it took to perform it.
Exactly. The true reward is the private, almost secret knowledge that you hold in your own mind. You hold the memory of the tired nights. You hold the memory of the self-encouragement. You hold the memory of the underground root system.
It makes me think of walking through a high-end art museum.
Tell me about that.
So you are in this room with pristine white walls, perfect lighting, climate control, and there is a painting in a beautiful gold frame. The crowd walks by and they see a masterpiece. They see pure, unadulterated genius.
Right.
But imagine the artist is standing in the back of the room watching the crowd. The artist is seeing something completely different.
The artist possesses the history of the object.
Yes. The artist is looking at that painting and seeing the hundreds of crumpled, failed sketches scattered on their studio floor. They are remembering the smell of the turpentine, the days they wanted to throw the canvas out the window, the obsessive, maddening, lonely process of getting the shading just right.
The crowd merely consumes the final product, but the artist sees the history of the struggle.
And honestly, the artist actually loves those crumpled sketches on the floor more than the painting on the wall, because those sketches are where they actually became a better artist. The painting is just the receipt for the work.
The painting is just the receipt. That is a brilliant way to articulate it. The public consumes the result, but the creator intimately possesses the process. The process is what changed them. The result is just a byproduct of that change.
So, to you listening to this right now, when your day of external success finally arrives, and if you are doing the quiet root work, it will arrive, do not be frustrated when people do not understand the sheer volume of work it took to get there.
No. Don't let it bother you.
Their misunderstanding is not an insult. It is actually a badge of honor. It means your roots are so deep, your invisible mass is so large, and your silent effort was so profound that it looks like literal magic to everyone else. You have a secret with yourself.
And that private intimacy with your own resilience is the most valuable asset you will ever build. It is the ultimate proof that the most powerful growth truly does happen where no one can see.
It frees us from the exhausting treadmill of seeking constant validation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It allows us to focus purely on the work itself.
Well, we have journeyed through a lot of complex terrain today.
We really have.
We started by acknowledging the primal evolutionary pain of the unseen grind and the heavy thermodynamic weight of having to be your own closed-loop source of encouragement.
And we looked at the biomimicry of the underground seed and the bamboo tree, understanding that premature exposure will literally kill our foundational growth.
Right. And we finally arrived at the ultimate triumph, which is the choice to practice discipline for an audience of one, knowing that the secret history of your effort, the crumpled sketches, the deep roots, is your truest reward.
It is a radical shift in perspective for a society addicted to the spotlight.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the hidden architecture of effort, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought.
A thought experiment.
Yes, a thought experiment to take with you into the rest of your day, or maybe to ponder tonight when it's quiet. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and discovered that a massive solar flare had wiped out every single metric of public approval.
Oh, wow.
All external applause, all social media likes, all public praise, all resumes, and all societal recognition were just permanently deleted from the world.
Gone forever.
Gone. No one could ever know what you achieved ever again. What quiet, unseen effort would you still choose to pursue today simply because of the person it forces you to become?
That is the ultimate question of character. Who are you when the theater is empty?
Because remember, even when it feels like no one notices how hard you are trying, the strongest people are always the ones no one notices at first. Keep growing in the dark. Until next time, thanks for taking the deep dive with us.